Another chilly evening draws in, Holmes. But the fire here in our old rooms at Baker Street offers a familiar comfort. Wouldn't you agree? And speaking of familiar comforts, I received confirmation today the latest chronicle has been published.
Ah, and which particular exploit are you sharing with the readership this time, Watson? Your pen seems tireless, even in these later years.
This one felt different, worthy of record, certainly. I've called it the case of the Clockwork Witness. You remember the affair at Sir Reginald Harcourt's?
The Clockwork Witness. Yes, I recall it vividly. An investigation notable not for the usual human frailties, though they were present, but for the intricate dance of technology and deception. It stands quite apart from our usual catalog of crime.
Indeed, that automaton, Professor Flemming's mechanical guardian. It presented a puzzle box quite unlike any other, wouldn't you say? A true challenge to the principles of observation when the prime witness wasn't human at all.
Precisely. It forced one to consider not merely motive and opportunity in the traditional sense, but the very logic or potential illogic embedded within gears and springs. A fascinating divergence.
As I detailed in the account, Holmes, the initial reports from Sir Reginald Harcourt's estate were utterly confounding. A truly unique piece, his prized celestial sphere, a marvel of ormolu and enamel depicting the constellations, had vanished. Simply vanished.
And vanished from conditions that defied conventional explanation. A study sealed from within, windows barred, no discernible point of entry or egress. A classic locked room puzzle, Watson, but with a most unusual twist.
Indeed, the twist being the room's sole occupant, Professor Flemming's creation, the automaton guardian. A figure of polished brass and steel, designed with unprecedented complexity to patrol the chamber and record any disturbance.
A mechanical sentinel, Watson, intended to be the epitome of incorruptible security. Its internal chronometer and recording discs purported to offer a perfect, inviolable log of the room's status. A testament to Flemming's genius, yet
the official police theory, led by Inspector Davies, if I recall, quickly settled on mechanical failure. They posited some internal defect, a glitch in the clockwork memory that failed to register, well, whatever occurred.
A convenient conclusion, perhaps, but one that failed to satisfy. Malfunction seemed too simple a solution for such a meticulously engineered device, guarding an object of such singular value. My instincts suggested the automaton was not merely incidental to the event, but central to its execution.
It certainly presented as the perfect, impossible crime. No forced entry, no human witnesses, only a silent mechanical guardian and an empty display case where the celestial sphere once rested. The initial bafflement was palpable, and joining us now by the fireside, a gentleman whose ingenuity was central to the entire affair, Professor Augustus Flemming. Professor, welcome. It's a privilege to have you share your recollections of that remarkable and indeed troubling period.
Dr. Watson, Mr. Holmes, thank you for the invitation. Reflecting on that particular creation always stirs complex thoughts. It represents perhaps the zenith of my work in automated security, yet the circumstances surrounding its deployment were unfortunate.
Indeed, your automaton guard, Professor, was a marvel of its time, a testament to mechanical precision. Could you perhaps illuminate for our listeners the philosophy behind its design? What were you aiming to achieve beyond mere surveillance?
Simplicity in function, complexity in execution. The goal was absolute security through tireless, impartial observation, a mechanism immune to fatigue, distraction, or so I believed, deception. It was designed to record, precisely and unerringly, every second within its designated sphere, creating an incorruptible log of events.
A tireless sentinel. Yet such creations often provoke a dual response in the public mind, do they not, Professor? Fascination bordering on awe, yet tinged with a certain apprehension. A fear of the uncanny valley, perhaps, or of obsolescence.
Precisely, Mr. Holmes. The newspapers lauded it as the pinnacle of mechanical safeguarding, the unblinking eye. Yet letters arrived expressing unease, fears of machines replacing men, of intelligence devoid of conscience or soul. Progress often walks hand in hand with fear of the unknown, a fear I confess I sometimes share.
That burden of unintended consequences, I imagine it weighs heavily on an inventor. The potential for one's creation to behave unexpectedly.
It does, Doctor, terribly so. It reminds me of an earlier project, nothing so grand, merely a complex meteorological device intended for predicting localized weather patterns. It performed brilliantly for months, then, without warning, began forecasting entirely nonsensical conditions, predicting snowstorms in July, heat waves in December. A single minuscule gear, warped almost imperceptibly by an unforeseen atmospheric variable, had thrown the entire intricate calculation into chaos. It taught me a harsh lesson. The more complex the machine, the more subtle and potentially catastrophic the point of failure. One assumes perfect operation, but perfection is a fragile state in mechanics, and perhaps elsewhere. And that incident solidified my concerns, you see. We strive to build tools for betterment, for security, for knowledge, but once released into the world, their application is out of our hands. The potential for misuse, for turning ingenuity towards darker purposes. It is a shadow that follows every advancement, an ethical tightrope we inventors must walk.
An interesting point, Professor, which brings us back to your automaton guard. You designed it, in essence, as a mechanical witness. But can a machine truly witness in the human sense? Can it interpret motive or merely record physical action? And what happens when its apparently infallible record contradicts observable fact or logic?
That, Mr. Holmes, is the crux of the matter, isn't it? It records data, sequences of events with unparalleled fidelity, or so it should, but interpretation, context, nuance. Those remain the province of the human mind, with all its flaws and insights. The absolute reliance on purely mechanical observation. Well, it presents profound challenges, as this case so vividly demonstrated.
Describing that automaton, Holmes, it presented a unique challenge for the chronicler. One wishes to convey the marvel of Professor Flemming's creation, the sheer intricacy of its workings, yet without descending into a dry engineering treatise that would send the reader nodding off by the fire.
Indeed, Watson. And for the investigator, the challenge is analogous, though the purpose differs. Observation in the face of such complex machinery must evolve. It is not merely a matter of noting scratches on a watch face or the mud upon a boot. One must apprehend the internal logic, the, shall we say, the mind of the machine. To deduce its behavior, one must first understand its design, its limitations, the precise sequence of its functions as intended by its creator. A misplaced cog, a deviation in timing, these are the tells, the equivalent of a nervous twitch or a furtive glance in a human subject.
Precisely. I found myself wrestling with how much detail to include. Explain the clockwork memory cylinders, the elaborate system of counterweights that governed its patrol. It risked bogging down the narrative pace. I recall describing how the recording stylus moved across the wax cylinder, driven by that intricate gear train.
Ah, a minor point, Watson, but significant for analysis. It was less a simple gear train driving the stylus's lateral movement and more akin to a lead screw mechanism, synchronized precisely with the cylinder's rotation via a separate escapement. The distinction is critical. It dictates the absolute uniformity of the temporal record, barring deliberate interference.
You see, that very precision, Holmes, while vital for your deductions, becomes a hurdle for the storyteller aiming for clarity and engagement. It's a fine line to walk, conveying the mechanical reality without losing the human drama of the situation.
The drama, Watson, often lies precisely within that mechanical reality. Understanding the machine was paramount to understanding the crime.
Sir Reginald Harcourt certainly spared no expense, Professor. His pride in patronizing your genius, in possessing such a marvel as the Clockwork Witness, was palpable whenever one visited his collection. He saw it as a triumph of British ingenuity.
A pride that, while understandable, acts as a beacon, Watson. Such public displays of technological prowess inevitably attract less desirable attention. The whispers surrounding organizations like the Clockwork Gang and their rumored appetite for advanced mechanisms and secrets were not entirely unfounded, I believe.
Indeed, Mr. Holmes, it is a recurring pattern and a heavy burden for the inventor. One strives for elegance, for a solution to a puzzle, for the pure intellectual satisfaction of creation. But once the device leaves the laboratory, it enters a world driven by entirely different forces.
You mean the focus shifts, Professor, from scientific curiosity to, well, to baser motives.
Precisely, Doctor. The world often appraises an innovation not primarily for its ingenuity, but for its potential utility in acquiring wealth, consolidating power, or gaining advantage over rivals. The initial spark of discovery becomes overshadowed by calculations of profit and strategic value. Sir Reginald's enthusiasm, admirable in its way, perhaps blinded him somewhat to the avarice his prize might incite in others.
Human nature remains the constant variable, Professor, however advanced the machinery. Pride invites envy, innovation breeds fear alongside awe, and advancement inevitably attracts those who seek only to exploit it. The machine itself is neutral. It is the human hand and heart guiding it, or seeking to possess it, that determines its ultimate role, benefactor or bane.
A sobering thought. It underscores how our own reactions, that very pride Sir Reginald felt, the fear some hold of the unknown, the greed of others, truly dictate the path these remarkable advancements take in the world. It truly was a most singular affair, Professor. Your Clockwork Witness, as I termed it, forced us all to confront the relentless march of progress, didn't it? And the profound responsibilities that march inevitably entails for the inventor and for society.
Indeed, Doctor, invention is one thing. Anticipating every ripple it creates in the vast pond of human affairs is quite another. The unforeseen consequences. They are the true specters that haunt the workshop long after the blueprints are filed away. Responsibility weighs heavily when one crafts something that might outpace our own wisdom.
A sobering thought, and eloquently put. Professor Flemming, your insights this evening have been invaluable, sharing your perspective not just on the intricate mechanics, but on the deeper ethical currents stirred by such creations. Well, on behalf of myself and Mr. Holmes, thank you most sincerely for joining our fireside recollection.
The pleasure and perhaps the necessity was mine, Doctor. These discussions are vital, lest we become mere servants to our own ingenuity.
Ingenuity, or perhaps its uncanny mirror. Man creates machines, often striving for an image of perfection. Yet it is frequently less a question of the machine's ultimate capability, and more a reflection of the subtle, sometimes troubling, imperfections inherent in its human creator.
A typically Holmesian perspective to conclude upon, and a thought-provoking one indeed. Listeners, I trust you found this revisit to the case of the Clockwork Witness as stimulating as we did. Join us next time on the Baker Street Chronicles, when we shall delve into the altogether different, yet equally chilling, affair I chronicled as The Adventure of the Speckled Band. Until then, from Baker Street,